everybody. It's the question where you have the questions and I have the answers. And I'm finally going to talk about the Second Amendment, which, if you're American, you definitely know is the right to bear arms. If you're abroad, you probably also know it's the right to bear arms, and it's probably like a joke everywhere that Americans love their guns. And that's probably true. We do. Um, let's talk about the right to bear arms because it's not just the right to bear arms. The actual Constitution says, in case of a militia and security of state, the rights to bear arms must not be infringed upon. Which basically means if there's an attack on the government, if there is an attack on the state or the country, or in self defense, you have the right to bear arms. You're allowed to have guns and weapons, in case of another war or an attack. And that was mainly done because when the Constitution was made, when the Bill of Rights was ratified, we didn't have a national military or state, like military or anything. And you're like, well, how did we win the American Revolution? It's because a bunch of people band together and said, hey, we're going to fucking fight Britain. And some of them had military training, but a lot of them and most of them did not. I'm sorry, I'm getting notifications from YouTube, ironically. Uh, so at the time, it was like, well, if we get attacked again, we need people to be armed and know how to use those guns so we can fight whoever's attacking us. But then in 1812, we got a national military. So the question, I guess, is the right to bear arms, Second Amendment, still needed if we now have a national military? And the answer is, we don't know. Congress and the government is very, very reluctant to pass laws about it because it's such a touchy thing, and because we really don't know, you know, what to do about it. Because obviously, having all these guns, people are violent and people shoot others, and people shoot others based on race and sexuality and gender and all that kind of jazz, and people shoot others just cuz. And so we haven't made any laws really on it. Like, Supreme Court has ruled on it, and that's as close to getting laws around it as we've gotten. I think the last thing that was ruled was that if you've been convicted of a felony or you have been to jail, you can no longer have the right to bear arms. You can no longer purchase a gun. Like officially, you can go to someone like a yard sale and buy some, which is something that we have to fix. But like, you can't go to an ammunition shop or some gun range and get a gun. You know. Same thing for the mentally ill. And that's a big thing that people who want to, enforce gun control is just like, yeah, these laws stop legal buying of guns. But you can go anywhere and find a gun or buy a gun, not officially, because there's so many in circulation already, and we don't have the money to go and collect everybody's guns. Also, that's the one thing that, like, all these Second Amendment lovers fear is that the government's going to come and collect their guns. Uh, so, yeah. Also, because the NRA got involved at some point, and money under the table saying, hey, you should probably let everybody have their guns because it's good for us, and so on and so forth, even though we've had mass school shootings and people who abuse that. But also, as in America, our policy around killing people and self defense and whatever is super weird. Like, if someone breaks into your house, you're allowed to shoot them, but it has to be like a shoot to kill. Like, you have to kill them if they enter your house, because if you don't, then they can go back and sue you for their inability to work because you injured them. But also, if they're leaving, you can't shoot them in the back because then that's murder, because it means that they were retreating. And it's so complicated and just weird. Our homicide is weird because not all of it is murder, but also a lot of it is murder, and it's like, what is happening here? Then, of course, you have to factor race into it because it's like all these people are like, everyone has a right, do have a gun in their home or have like 50 guns in their home and open carry or conceal carry and just they can have guns, we should all be allowed to have guns. But then if someone of any other race, specifically black people, are seen exercising those same rights, it's suddenly not okay and they're hostile and they have a weapon and their intent is to hurt others. And it's like, you brought your gun into Walmart. Does that mean we get to shoot you as well? What? And which is actually another thing. Is that we're talking about gun control, and one of the few instances where gun control was, enforced was in California when Reagan was governor, and he only did that because the Black Panther Party was openly carrying guns and marching on capitals and shit. And he was just like, "Yeah, our lives are in danger. We should probably have more control over guns." And it's like, only when black people have guns, it's when it's bad. But it's like if any other like redneck, white person has like carrying their rifles in Walmart, no one cares. And it's also like with gun control in America, and I've made a video on this before, but I feel like it's nice to bring back, especially once the more recent debate, which is should open carry on guns be allowed at public demonstrations? After the Capitol riots, should they be allowed to have guns during protests? And do they have the right to say that they can't? That's one of the biggest things I think about the government, and I'll talk about this over everything because it comes up a lot in American history, is that our Constitution is so vague. Our government has no idea if they have the right to pass laws on it and regulate things or not. Because we lack so many specifics, we don't know. Also because we don't think about long-term things. Like there's a whole argument now about whether we should abolish the filibuster in Congress. If you don't know, is that if a law is being passed, it has to get a certain amount of signatures. But if someone doesn't want the law to be passed, they can stand and talk about it, about like against it forever. And if they talk for a certain amount of time, then the law will get tabled and have to come wait for like the next year or something for it to come up again. And people are all against it because one, it slows down the lawmaking process. Which one, that's the intent. The founding fathers were assholes and made it completely so super hard to get anything done in the government, which they did on purpose because then if things got done in the government, we may pass things that they don't like. Which gets to number two. People are talking about abolishing the filibuster because the Republicans plan to use it to stop some of Biden's things and stop some of like the Democrats' shit. And which I get it, but also we cannot treat abolishing the filibuster the same way we treat abolishing like the electoral college, because the difference is electoral college was made specifically to keep certain people in power and to discriminate against others and to give more people power than others. It was made to be discriminatory, whereas the filibuster is a neutral thing that can be used by either side, and it has been used by either side, and we shouldn't start thinking about abolishing it just because one side now wants to use it and the other side does not. You get what I'm saying? Like, yes, it slows down Congress, and I get that, and we wish Congress would be faster, but also it has been used to stop multiple things that could have been bad, and just because now somebody else is using it against you, it's kind of hypocritical, because the Dems also used it to stop anti abortion laws. And if they didn't have that, then abortion would be illegal. And now people are using it to try and like overturn, I think, like the stimulus check or overturn Trump's second impeachment. And it's like you can't get mad for something you use now that people are using it against you, you know? And people are arguing, it's like, well, became popular in like the Jim Crow South, even though people have been using it long before. I think once again it was part of like set up in the original government. This isn't like a new thing that was created just to hurt progress. It was created as a way to kind of maintain the status quo and can be used by either side and has been used by either side. So I feel like I don't care if they abolish it or not. I'm just saying that the reasons for abolishing it is pretty dumb and short sighted. But yeah, no. So the whole thing with, sorry, that was like a tangent I've been thinking about for a while because I saw one post and it was like super dumb. No, but the whole thing with guns is that people once again don't know how to regulate it and they don't know what to regulate it with because, and there have been other countries, and that's another thing comparing America to other countries, because America is such a different country, it's run so differently than other countries, that there are a lot more factors that make implementing other countries' ideas for gun control and gun regulation harder. Like with Australia, they, have gun control, and when they collected everyone's guns and made everybody have to, buy them officially, because once again, even if we put, gun control, we have all of these regulations on how to purchase guns that does not take into account the millions of guns that we already have in circulation that people still have access to, that they can get, without a permit, just from going to like gun shows or garage sales or so on and so forth. But we don't have the same amount of people because our country's too big. We don't have the money because we are trillions of dollars in debt to go out and collect everybody. Also, because we'd face a lot of pushback from people who have the guns, and these aren't just like normal guns either. These are like military grade weaponry because people thought that was a good idea to give to the public. And yeah, so that makes that idea a lot harder. And maybe like on a state by state basis, it could work, but not nationally, not federally. Also, it wouldn't pass because even though Dems technically control Congress, that's still 50-50 with Kamala being the deciding vote, and majority of things aren't like a small majority needed. It's like two-thirds of Congress, which is not going to happen. So even though Dems technically control it, it's still going to be a long process. Laws aren't going to be made like that in a day. That snap was weak. Another thing people thought about is, just what if police just didn't carry guns? And once again, because we have heavily armed and crazy people with guns, they should they not use their guns as often? I definitely think that police should not use excessive force, like shooting people, especially shooting people to kill. But at the same time, it's once again, if you shoot them and you don't kill them, they can sue you for, I don't know why we said it. That was the thing. Another thing that I think is interesting is Israel. Once again, Israel's policies. They set a limit to ammunition, not on guns. So you can buy guns, you can have the gun, but you only get like 50 bullets or something, and once you use them, you can't buy more. Also, everybody they have a military draft, so everybody knows how to use the guns. I don't think that's a requirement, is that you can go and buy a gun, but you don't have to know how to use it. There's no like official training really. So yeah, it's really, really complicated, and we should have gun control, but it's not likely to happen. And given the history, it still probably won't happen with this new administration here. Biden's done a lot for this country already, just like the first week, but there are some things going to be like more than him. You know, these issues are systemic, they are long lasting. It's not just Trump did this. He can overturn the stuff that Trump did, he can overturn the small stuff, the new stuff, but the long lasting, like, started with this country's creation shit is going to be more than Biden. It has to take all of us collectively working to stop this, or to fix this, or to change this. We shouldn't put all of this pressure on him because, yeah, he has big shoes to fill. He made a lot of promises, but he probably isn't going to keep all of them because no politician keeps all their promises. But we also have to realize that getting Trump out of office and getting Biden in is not the cure all that we all want it to be, because these things are bigger than him. It took hundreds of years to cultivate the systemic racism in such a way that we have it now. And it's going to take another 100 years to undo it. It's not going to be fixed in a year, in 4 years, in our lifetime, probably. It can get better and we can start that process, but we should not expect it to be fixed by now. Same thing with gun control, same thing with Second Amendment, same thing. Especially with like the Supreme Court now, and we have ACB, who during her nomination was just like, people who are felons should have the right to get their guns back, but they shouldn't have the right to vote. Am I gonna slam ACB every single time I make a video? Probably, because she fucking deserves it. Anyway, have a lovely day, my peoples. I love all of you. So long and thanks for all the fish. Be excellent to each other. Party on, dudes.